Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my January wrap-up. I started off the year super successfully and I read 14 books in the month of January. I'm actually like shocked because I have no idea how I managed to do that. I really didn't have plans to do that, and there was like a week where I was just not reading and was like, yeah, this is gonna be a really crappy reading month. And then it wasn't. I'm going to say it was mostly because of audiobooks. I got really into audiobooks this month, and I'm pretty sure that's like where most of my reading came from. But let's just jump in to the books that I was able to read in January. So I kicked off the year by reading The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I actually really liked this. I was kind of uncertain because I've heard mixed things about the guest list, and I've heard even more mixed things about this one. I really liked this. I thought it was super fun. I gave it a 4-star. It is about a group of old school friends that come together yearly for New Year's Eve, and this year they've let their friend's girlfriend plan the trip, and she decides to book this like mansion in the Scottish Highlands in the middle of heavy snow. And basically, it's a thriller, so shit goes down, and we follow multiple perspectives that include some of the friends, but also some of the people who work at this mansion. I guessed some of the like main twists. The like big one, I did guess, but it was only because of like certain things. I kind of comb through my thrillers with like a fine-tooth comb sometimes now, where I pick up casual things that are said and I'm like, wait a second, I bet I can connect those dots. And I was able to do that in this, but there was still some surprise for me, and I just really liked the writing, so I did give this a 4-star, and I am looking forward to more of Lucy Foley's writing. I then read Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This is a novel in verse. It is a middle grade, and it is Jacqueline Woodson's memoir from when she was a little girl, kind of growing up and learning how to write and learning that she wants to write. And I really liked this. I gave this a 4-star. I have already unhauled it. I've passed it on because I just knew that I wasn't going to be rereading it, but it was still a beautifully impactful book, and I would highly recommend it, especially if as a child you really liked writing and you really liked making up stories to the point where people would call you a liar. And how she kind of turned that into a career of storytelling, and I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was super well done. I've actually not read anything else by Jacqueline Woodson. This has made me want to read more of her writing. Next up, I listened to The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. So the new mini Buzzwordathon has begun, and in January the word was dream, which is why I read Brown Girl Dreaming, and I picked up the Dream Thieves audiobook, and I gave this a 3-star just as I gave the Raven Boys. I liked it a lot. I think I was actually more invested in this one than I was in previous ones. I do really like Ronan. I think he's a really interesting character to follow and to learn more about, and I liked the whole setup of it. I didn't love the ending. The ending didn't do too much for me. I was kind of just like, oh, okay. But it's also a YA book, and I think that's probably where a lot of my disappointment comes from. But if I had read this earlier, I probably would have loved it. I just, at this point of being 24 years old, 3 stars. Next up, I read 4-Letter Word by Krista Desir. This was a 2-star. This is about a girl who's in high school, and she has kind of a bumpy friend group where she has her best friend, but her best friend has gotten kind of a new best friend. And there's this new girl who has the same name. Our main character's name is Chloe, and this new Chloe has come, and her friends have started calling her the other Chloe, so she's not super happy about it. She's kind of like unsure of herself. She's like, her friends are talking about sex and boys and things like that, and she's not super comfortable. She has a crush, but she doesn't really know how to go about that. Her new friend Chloe has this game that she wants to play with them, where she will think of a 4-letter word and she'll give each girl a letter, and then the boys will have a captain, and he will pick a word and give each of the boys a letter, and the boys are trying to get the letters from the girls so that they can guess the other team's name. So it's like capture the flag with words. But obviously our Chloe can tell that this could be kind of super sexual and she's not super comfortable with it, but it's also found out that the best way to play it is with secrets. So everybody in this book has a secret of some sort, some much more serious than others, and it takes off from there. This was pitched to me as a YA thriller. I think it's a YA contemporary that is just kind of fucked up. I liked elements of this. Some of the twists were well done. The ending pissed me off, and then most of it I was annoyed. It's a little long for what it is as well. It really dragged at parts, but 2 stars. In the end, it was really hard for me to finish, and I just it wasn't a book made for me. Then I listened to The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. This was my second time reading this book, and I kind of just wanted a refresher of what was in it before I unhauled it. I love getting rid of things. It is one of my life's greatest passions. I love getting rid of things, and I'm trying to get better at not buying new things to replace the things that I get rid of. So reading Marie Kondo was part of that. I'm currently doing a declutter challenge on my other channel if you're interested in that. And if you'll notice, on this channel, I'm shifting my focus from buying a bunch of books to getting rid of books that I'm not going to read again or not going to read, and stopping myself from hauling books quite as much. So stick around if you're interested in that. But I read Marie Kondo. Just as a refresher, I gave this 4 stars. A lot of it resonates with me, and some of it is a little much for me. Next up, we have one of my least favorite books that I've ever read. So I made a joke toward the end of last year that I don't really give books 1 star. And then I went to my Goodreads and realized that was a lie, because I gave Cursed Child 1 star, and I think one other book. But this book has been my first star. This book is my first 1 star in a while, and that is We All Looked Up by Tommy Wallach. This is about a group of teenagers that are seemingly disconnected except for the fact that they go to the same school, but they're all kind of interconnected throughout the book. They're all going through their own stuff, and then all of a sudden a meteor is going to come crashing to Earth and could kill everyone. And they have like a few months to live. They're not totally sure it's going to happen, but it kind of changes the world and these teenagers' world. Well, I didn't like this. 1, these are not fucking teenagers. Like, I knew teenagers in high school who acted somewhat like these people, but like the fact that all of them are like this, they're like adults. They talk like adults. They like leave their houses and are like, yeah, I'm going to a bar. The one girl like hooks up with grown-ass men frequently. And like, yes, this is some people's existence. I'm not like saying that there's not teenagers like that. But the fact is that all of them are like that. And they're all from like seemingly different groups and things. And I don't know. It was just weird. It was weird. I was like, where are your parents? And why do they just let you do this? And then my main issue with this book, there is a rape scene. And the way it is written disgusted me and infuriated me and made me mad. It's toward the end of the book. And at that point, I was just like, no, fuck this. Like, no. She shouldn't be thinking things like that. That is super harmful for her to think things like that during a rape scene. It's a man writing females' thoughts during a rape scene, and it's gross and not correct. And to put that into a YA novel meant for teenagers is harmful. And I think a lot of the stuff talked about in this was a little bit harmful. No, 1 star. Fuck this book. Next up, I decided to read Lucy Foley's other book on my TBR, and that is The Guest List. I understand where people are coming from, where they say they didn't like this because it was too slow and boring. There was a point where I had to force myself to read this because it was kind of boring, I will admit. The slow burn beginning sets up a lot. It does set up a lot, but it's not doing much for you in the moment. I still really liked this. I gave this a 4-star. This is about a group of people. We follow a few of them. They're on this island off of Ireland that was basically abandoned, and there's not much there. There's nobody living there anymore. There is just this mansion, and this woman has made this mansion into a wedding venue, and there are these celebrities that are coming to get married, and we follow the bride, we follow her sister, and we follow some other people, including the wedding planner. And then there's a murder at the wedding. It's amazing. I really liked this. I predicted parts, but like some of the main twists fucked me up, and I was really excited about it. So 4 stars. Liked this a lot, enjoyed it greatly. Next up, I listened to Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I recently watched an author talk with Talia Hibbert and became obsessed with her and as a person. And I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown last July, I want to say, or June, and really liked it. And I really liked this one. I gave it a 4-star. I think Danny as a character is so unlike me, but so fun to read from her perspective. I think we don't get too many characters like her. We don't get too many female characters who are very much like, I want a fuck buddy, I'm not interested in romance, that's it. She's like witchy, but she's also a PhD student and she's super driven. And I loved reading from her because it's not like the age-old kind of Hallmark stuff where you're like, oh my god, I love my career too much to want a relationship. She's just genuinely like, no, I'm bad at relationships and I don't want to put anybody through that, so like, give me all the sex. And I love that. And then we have Zafir, who is the security guard in Danny's building, and he's like a super romantic guy. Like, he loves romance novels. And one day there is there's an emergency drill in their building, and Danny gets stuck, and Zafir picks her up and like takes her out, and everybody's watching, and this video goes viral, so they begin to fake date. And I loved it. I truly loved it. I read some reviews that were like, oh my god, I didn't like this, and I was like, why? This is the most adorable thing in the world. And after watching the author talk with Talia Hibbert, I'm even more obsessed with her, and I cannot wait for Eve Brown. I cannot wait. I think that comes out next month, and I am going to read it as soon as I can. Next up, we have Alotsaway by Darcy Little Badger. I really liked this. Alotsaway is Lipan Apache, and she lives in this world that is a lot like our own, but there are ghosts and vampires and wendigos and just like supernatural creatures. And she has this ghost dog named Kirby who I absolutely loved. I thought it was adorable. And some things happen and she gets sucked into kind of this mystery about this Texas town called Willoughby and this particular man in Willoughby who she is very suspicious of. I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4-star. The reading experience for me was clunky and I'm not sure why. I had kind of a tough time getting into it at parts, but when I was into it, I loved it. So I gave it a 4-star. I really want to reread this because I think I might like it more. I might bump it to a 5-star on a reread, but I loved this. I loved the fact that she had a ghost dog. I love the fact that everyone knew that there were such things as clairvoyance and that, you know, some people could raise the dead. I love that the Native American characters could kick vampires off their land because you can't. A vampire has to be invited in, and when you tell them to go, they have to go, like vampire lore. But because Native Americans, that was their homeland, like they could kick off vampires, and I loved that. I loved like little details like that were really cool for me. I really enjoyed this. It does read younger than regular YA, but I kind of appreciated that because I think a lot of YA, like We All Looked Up, write really grown-up teenagers that, sure, some teenagers are super mature, but a lot of teenagers are not. And a lot of teenagers are a lot more like Alotsaway, where they're still children trying to figure shit out, and they still have to listen to their parents, and their parents still have to know where they are. So I really liked this, 4-star. I do want to reread this fairly soon, but I need to get it back to the library because there's a hold list on this. Next up, I listened to the Buy Nothing, Get Everything plan, Discover the Joy of Spending Less, Sharing More, and Living Generously. This is by Liesl Clark and Rebecca Rockefeller. I gave this a 3-star. I think this had some good points to be made about being environmentally friendly and being conscious of what you're bringing into your life and what you're throwing away, and that you're living sustainably, at least not actively harming the planet. I liked that. The issue here is that the big premise of this book is that you should set up a sharing community where you kind of like create a Facebook group and everybody is just going to help each other out. So instead of buying something, you try to find someone who already owns it and lets you borrow it. And that's a big premise of this, which is just hard to imagine in the middle of COVID. A lot of this is like, get together and do this, or just, you know, swap things. And it's great in the idea if you have a community that is open to that level of community, that's wonderful. But that can be difficult, first of all, and second of all, it's not realistic in the time of COVID. So a lot of this I had to just kind of leave, but it did make me think more about sustainability and my own choices as far as consumerism and things I'm throwing away that I could gift or donate and things like that. So that was good. It made me think a little differently, but their suggestions at times seemed unrealistic, and at some points a little bit much. I don't see myself like making my own detergent anytime soon. Some of their DIYs were helpful, and then some of them I'm like, see, I get where you're coming from, zero waste wise, but sometimes that's just not realistic for people. So some of this was a stretch. 3 stars. I liked the thought process. Didn't love a lot of these suggestions. Then I read The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Neve O. 5 stars. Oh my god, I am obsessed. This was so good. I went into this almost completely blind. I knew that it was fantastical. I knew that there was like a storytelling element. Our main character, Chi, is a cleric with they them pronouns, which I thought was really cool. And they are just going and interviewing people and talking to people and trying to learn about people's histories and the histories of a place and what's there now. And we learn about this empress, and we learn about someone who used to know this empress, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I thought it was so well done. The storytelling elements were beautiful, and it was just a lot of like weirdly heartbreaking fun. I loved it so much. I want to reread it. I have this one on ebook. I bought it on ebook last year. And it's such a short read, but it's so impactful, and I loved it. Did I mention that I loved it? Next up, I listened to The Fuckit Diet, Eating Should Be Easy by Caroline Dooner. So Holly from Holly Hearts Books did a video probably about a month ago now, talking about her weight loss journey and the book that really helped her. And it was The Fuckit Diet. And so I decided to listen to it, and it's kind of like this one, in that certain things I was like, yeah, that, you know, changed the way I thought about something. It kind of made me question things a little bit more. It's not so much that her ideas were unrealistic, it's more that they feel more idealistic than realistic. All the istics. And kind of like she was repeating herself a lot. I read some of the reviews and I agreed a lot with the negative reviews, in that she says it's not intuitive eating, but it basically is intuitive eating. And she says, you know, you shouldn't be scared of food, and the solution to this is just eat as much as you want. And I think there's some harmful parts of that, in that I don't want to be scared of food. I will admit that like my food relationship, we're getting like totally into like nutrition stuff. I think I've had a really stunted, messed up relationship with food for most of my life for many reasons, but I'm not sure that the way to heal my body is just to let it eat whatever it wants. I liked what she said about diets and how they literally send the body into famine response, and in response your body will end up gaining weight after you get off of this diet, because it's like, wow, I was starving. So that was interesting to me. A lot of the historical and scientific aspects are things that I had never been taught or heard of, and I thought those were really impactful. I think my thing is that, yes, I want to heal my relationship with food. I don't want to be scared of certain food, and I want to accept my body as it is. But I also don't think the solution to getting there is letting myself eat a whole tray of brownies and not letting myself feel any kind of guilt. And I get, like, it's about listening to your body, and I do want to get better at that, and there were aspects of this book that helped me do that. But honestly, there were also aspects where I was like, see, you say that I can eat whatever I want, and then if I don't want something and I'm only eating it for health benefit, I shouldn't. And I'm kind of like, but then I'd like never eat a vegetable, and like, that's not a good idea. Like, I should eat vegetables. So I think there needs to be a balance between, fuck it, I don't think about food, and I need to limit the amount I eat of junk because it is harmful. Sugar is not good for you. Yes, you need some sugar. I'm not saying cut out sugar, but a huge excess amount of processed sugar isn't great. And to say, like, yes, I should eat more of these other foods because my body needs them. Yeah, I don't know. There was just, it was idealistic to the point of being like unrealistic. I don't know. It was kind of hard for me. So 3 stars. There were parts of it that struck me and parts of it that I was like, yeah, no. Then I read The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. I get why this has such low rating. I really do. This is a YA novel about a girl who cannot create new memories. She hasn't been able to create a new memory since she was 10. She remembers times before her accident, so each time that her brain gets wiped clean, basically she is transferred back to being 10, and she kind of has to catch herself up by writing journals and notes on her hands that say, I'm 17, I am here, things like that, and who people are around her are, and basically she kisses a boy and remembers it, and it's like changes her whole life path because she believes that he will heal her. So she goes on a little adventure and shit happens. I thought I hated this book. I thought this was gonna be at most a 2-star because I was so annoyed at like a lot of the characters in this book. I was kind of like, girl, like, I get it, you remembered this, like, you remember he's a big deal, but like, maybe you shouldn't put all your eggs in his basket. And then other characters where I'm like, okay, she's still 17 and she still knows how to like take care of herself, and you're treating her like she's totally helpless. And it was just, but then at the same time, she was acting kind of ridiculous. I don't want to say crazy, but like ridiculous. Like, she had ridiculous expectations. And yeah, and then like other characters, I'm like, well, that's manipulative. And yeah, it was just frustrating. But then the end happened. And then, like, the end got me more on the side of this book, and I gave it a 3-star because I did like the turns it took at the end. And finally, the last book I read in January, I read on the last day of the month. Actually, I listened to it while walking around in the snow, and it was lovely. And that was When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Niveau. This is the 2nd book in the Singing Hills cycle, and I loved this too. I gave this a 5-star. This also has the same storytelling aspect where the cleric is now telling a story to some tigers that want to eat them. And I love it. I love it so much. And the tigers are like editing the story and like, no, that's not what happened. Of course, you're a human. That's what you would say. It was so good, and I loved every minute of it. And I can't wait for more of these books because I'm obsessed. So those are the 14 books that I was able to read in January. I am very proud of myself for reading 14 books in the first month of the year, and I hope it continues. I don't think it will because I've kind of hit a wall in February. It's only like, was it the fourth day in February that I feel like I've fallen behind in reading. I need to like get better at not stressing myself out about reading, but it is what it is. Let me know your favorite book that you read in the month of January. But thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, all the normal stuff. And I'll see you again super soon. Bye.